Today, we're diving into some, well, frankly, fascinating ancient verses. We've got a couple of excerpts here from a text called Conches of Kings and Warriors. We're going to focus specifically on verse 16 and verse 17. And our mission really is to see what specific details, what surprising insights might be hiding in just these few lines. Now, you might be thinking, conches, seriously, what's the big deal? Just a battle horn, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if these seemingly small details actually whisper profound truths about power, identity, maybe even the fabric of an ancient society?
Right. That's the puzzle.
That's the real puzzle we're tackling today. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're kicking off with verse 16. It mentions King Yudhishthira, who's described as the son of Kunti.
Okay.
Now, for anyone familiar with these epics, you'll know Yudhishthira, the righteous eldest Pandava, kind of the moral compass.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets interesting straight away. His conch. It actually had a name. A name?
Yeah, it was called Anantavijaya.
Anantavijaya. Wow. Okay, now that is fascinating. The individual naming of an object, like a conch.
Right.
It's not just a conch. It suddenly has this specific identity.
Exactly.
And in ancient warfare, I mean, the sound of that conch was a huge signal. But giving it a name like Anantavijaya, which means what? Eternal victory?
Eternal victory, yeah.
That just, it elevates it, doesn't it? It's not just an instrument anymore. It's like a personal declaration of intent.
A declaration. Or maybe even a psychological weapon.
Could be. Radiating confidence, defining the warrior's presence even before they clash.
That's a really great observation. It makes you wonder, what is the deeper implication of giving a battle instrument that kind of individual identity? Is it like a personal bond? Or maybe something more strategic?
It could be both, couldn't it?
Yeah. And the verse carries on. Nakula and Sahadeva, they also blew their conches.
Okay.
And theirs were named too. Sugosha and Manapushpaka. So that's three distinct conches, each with its own pretty potent name. Three named conches. Sugosha, Manapushpaka. And remember, in ancient Indian warfare, that conch blast often kicked off the battle, right?
Signaled the start, yeah. Or maybe a key moment.
Precisely. So having its own name makes that signal, that rallying cry or challenge, even more potent.
So mentioning these three specific names for these key figures, Yudhishthira, Nakula, Sahadeva, it's doing more than just listing facts.
Oh, absolutely. It speaks volumes. It assigns this unique identity to each warrior, not just through who they are, but through the very sound they project into the battle.
Almost like a signature sound.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests a really structured, maybe even ritualistic approach to warfare, where even the tools, the instruments, are loaded with symbolic power.
Okay, so we've seen that individual declaration through the named conches in verse 16. Now let's widen the lens a bit. Verse 17 brings in other prominent figures, but it seems to reveal their power in a slightly different way. Still potent, but different. It mentions the great archer, the king of Kashi.
Oh, okay, so just go going by his skill.
Exactly. And then there's Shikandi, who's called a mighty warrior.
Right, another description of prowess.
And the list keeps going. Trishtadyumna, King Bharata, and then Satyaki, described as the unconquerable.
Unconquerable Satyaki, yeah.
And the verse says all these powerful figures, they also blew their conches.
Right, so if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're seeing is this collective action. A whole group of really prominent figures.
Defined differently.
Defined differently, yes. Each has their own defining attribute, highlighted, great archer, mighty warrior, unconquerable. It's not just a list. It feels more like a roll call of leadership and known abilities.
That's an interesting contrast then, isn't it?
How so?
Well, in verse 16, for Yudhishthira and his brothers, it's their conch that gets the powerful active name, like Anantavijaya, embodying victory.
Embodying the goal, perhaps.
Maybe. But then for others, like the king of Kashi or Satyaki, it's their inherent skill or nature that's front and center.
That's a really sharp observation. What do you think that difference tells us about how the text might be, I don't know, differentiating types of power or identity here?
Well, that's the question I was turning over to.
Okay, well, my take. It suggests a pretty nuanced approach in the text to showing significance. With Yudhishthira and his brothers, the name Conches, Anantavijaya, Sugosha, Manapushpaka, they seem to point to a really personal, almost spiritual link to their instrument and the specific declaration it makes.
Like an aspiration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These names feel active, aspirational, eternal victory. Whereas for figures like the king of Kashi or Satyaki, their power is defined by these established descriptions, these epithets, great archer, unconquerable.
So it highlights who they are already known to be.
Precisely. It highlights their fundamental nature, their reputation. So maybe it's the difference between, say, a declaration of intent for the battle ahead versus an affirmation of who they fundamentally are on that battlefield.
Declaration versus affirmation. I like that.
Both are powerful ways to signal status, but they just operate on slightly different levels of identity within the story.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's a powerful way to frame it. We've really peeled back some layers here on just these specific details. But for you, our listener, what's the bigger takeaway? Why should these, ancient names and descriptions actually matter to us today?
Well, I think it's really about understanding how incredibly concise language, even in texts this old, can act as a master storyteller. It's quite amazing.
Hmm.
The precise naming of the conches for some, these powerful epithets for others, it offers this really profound glimpse into the power dynamics, both individual and collective, within the narrative.
They're not just background noise or simple labels.
Not at all. These aren't generic sounds or descriptions. They
Right.
feel meticulously crafted. They're like proclamations that instantly tell you about status, about identity, about the weight of an action.
And maybe about the values of that society, what they chose to name, what they chose to describe.
Absolutely. Tells us about the values attached to objects, to skills, to reputation in that ancient world. And all of that is packed into just a handful of lines.
Incredible. So, yeah, we've taken this deep dive into just 2 verses. But look at the richness we found. These specific names, Anantavijaya, Sugosha, Manipushpaka, and these powerful descriptions. The king of Kashi as the great archer, Shikandi as the mighty warrior, Satyaki, the unconquerable.
Mhm.
It really is a powerful reminder, isn't it? How much meaning can be squeezed into just a few lines of an ancient text. Turns what seems like a simple battle announcement into this vivid picture of identity and intent.
It does. And maybe this raises an important question for you, the listener, to sort of mull over. Yeah. In our modern world, where do we see similar things? Where might we find these kind of subtle distinctions? Maybe between name tools or objects that signify a specific intent and aspiration versus descriptive titles that signal someone's inherent nature or reputation.
That's interesting. Named objects versus earned titles.
Right. Just think about the subtle ways we still use language, names, and descriptions to convey power and identity today. It's maybe not as different as we think.